and then make the sign of the cross.
Yeah,
and then,
yeah.
So if you would like to contact the gift shop at 479-6279, that's 479-6279 if you would like to get a candle to remember your favorite dad.
It's the least you guys can do. You guys never check your dads anyway. Mayor Hoffman, good morning.
Wow, what a wonderful segue.
It's the old Father's Day guilt trip, guys. Works like a charm. 714, Mayor Robert Hoffman.
Why does it feel like you're like talking to somebody about
what? No, just talking general terms.
Are you going to guilt your kids into doing something for you
like
for Father's Day?
Message or something?
Nah, what hidden? I don't do hidden message. You know I'm clumsy with the words. I just put them out there.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, that was pretty direct then.
Yeah, it was. It's 714.
Very subtle.
Monday, June 14th. Year of our Lord 2021. Mayor Robert Hoffman, Vice Mayor of the Mayor's Council, or Vice President of the Mayor's Council of Guam, joining us now. Good morning, Mayor Hoffman. Long time.
Good morning. How are you all?
We're doing pretty good. We're just scratching our heads because I know we were talking during the break, and then also with Mayor Alec, who usually comes on Monday. I hear he's a little busy this morning, though. So it was just interesting because the mayor was talking about, was it the COVID pay for the mayor's staff? Sabrina?
Yeah, the differential pay.
Right.
They hadn't received it since January. I think there was a letter from the Department of Administration saying, hey, no more COVID pay.
Right.
If you want to pay, you got to pay from your own funds. Something to that extent.
I just thought it was a little, we're scratching our heads because we're getting all these agencies come in, and that's kind of a recurring theme that they can't pay this or they can't pay this or that because they're broke, but yet we have $600 million in American Rescue Plan funds in the bank. So what gives, Mayor?
And a surplus.
We know all the documents that monitor and track the COVID pay is there with DOA. We were assured that it will be paid. So DOA ran out of money on that one account, which was the CARES Act. So now it's the American Recovery Plan that they're trying to get the money. They have the money in. So it's them, and it's a matter of them reconciling and then putting it into the account to pay it. So it is heartbreaking because a lot of these employees really kind of depended on that. They I would say they grew accustomed to it, but it did help in all the additional duties they did. Many of them are using their personal vehicles to do some of the responsibilities that we're tasked to because of the increase in terms of delivering meals, kind of doing the outreach, doing those personal stuff. So for many, COVID is over, but for many of us, we've never stopped. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. With it, we're just waiting to hear back from DOA that the money's been uploaded into the account. But all the paperwork is there. It is verified. And, so we're hoping probably maybe in a month or less. But I agree, there's money there.
Do you know how much is owed? Do you know how much total is owed?
I don't know off the top of my head. I know it's probably like 10 or 11 pay periods worth of COVID pay. And, Senator San Augustine during the budget hearing last week said, our employees are just like vendors. If they can pay vendors, and the government's made a real big effort to pay vendors, which is great. Our vendors are happy. Consider us vendors because, consider our employees vendors because they've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And so it's only right.
Yeah.
What do you think of that, Bree?
I don't think you need to justify. What do I think that it's like the waiting game?
Well, I think they need to pay the
Everybody's
workers.
waiting.
To pay
We're
the
all
workers.
waiting for-
I mean, the mayor's
of
staff's out there.
course,
They
of
bust their
course,
ass all the time.
But I know it's not just
the mayor's office employees. They're all frontliners.
Yeah, and I know that there are several agencies that are also due COVID pay. I mean, public health is one of them, and various agencies as well that were involved. And so, I wouldn't say there's a mad dash, but with the money sitting there, I as I hear discussions, I'm still kind of confused of where it goes. We have the money, but the legislature decides because they're asking for a plan, and the governor's office is asking for a plan. Everybody wants a plan. I'm like, here's a plan. Spend it, give it to us so we can spend it.
Yeah, here's a plan. Yeah, pay the workers. You're right, Mayor. It's crazy, but to me, it's like, how broke are we right now? I mean, because the senators came out with the plan. They had the meeting with the governor. The governor took the plan. We thought she was going to come out with her plan, but now her plan is no plan because she's waiting for the public comment period to end in July or something. So the question I had is like, are we just going to be sitting on this enormous mountain of money until what, like mid to late July? And just how broke are we? Because you're right, Mayor. We're getting all these different agencies coming in, and
it's and this 600+ million, it's like a year's worth of our GovGuam budget. So that could really help. But I understand some things coming down the line. Who is going to end? You're going to have still quite a lot of people out of work. So that's one caveat. How do we take care of that and make sure, it doesn't collapse? Because you're going to have them applying for public assistance because they didn't qualify under PUA. They're going to be switched over to some public assistance roles. So there's going to need money for that. And then you have some people that have, we still have things that need to be changed within our office to make it safer in terms of like our senior centers. We're waiting for our air filters. We're waiting for, some of them are still waiting for air conditioning upgrades, expansion projects. So, there's things that need to be removed so we can actually add more people there. Because, we're kind of not preparing just for COVID. We're preparing for the next one or the next one. These variants are scary. We don't know what's out there. We don't know what could be the next one. So it's making those incremental changes, but we're trying to do it in a timely manner. One thing with the federal government is I love them. They're great. But, just last week and the week before that, I got 50,000 N95 masks. I said, I could have used this a year ago.
Yeah.
I said, what am I going to do with 50,000 masks?
Mayor, you're right, because public health just got this $6 million or something to test. There was something with like $6 million to go into these underserved areas and test the people that we've been testing the whole pandemic already.
So, it's a slow and assured response of it, but we're going to continue to go on. And so what I'm doing with those masks, we're actually going to issue out to many of our Manumco and say, here, keep this at your house. If you have visitors, make them wear this, or if yours breaks, use this. They have a few, but there's a point of it being a disposable mask. You're supposed to dispose of it. You're not supposed to use the mask over and over again on that end. And, so Chris, I hope you're changing your mask.
Well, Mayor, we don't even dispose disposable Tupperware containers. I mean, we reuse everything on Guam, bro.
We don't even dispose of recyclables correctly.
Right,
Junk and white goods. So.
I mean, I just wipe my mask off, flip it over. It's like underwear. You flip it over, wipe it, put it on backwards.
Flip it in, flip it out, flip it in, turn this way. No, I agree. You spray it down.
That was the rule. Like, remember in ROTC, they said there was the rule. Like, how do you wear your underwear for like 3 days when you're in the tent? First day, wear it regular. Second day, turn it inside out. Third day, exchange with your bunkmate.
Right on. Good thing I wasn't in ROTC. Sounds like a little TMI. So that's what you were doing in high school. Swapping undies with your buddies. Got it.
Okay, so Mayor, just to get back on track, having said all of that with the funding and waiting for the federal government, so are we looking at senior citizen centers reopening? It's going to take even more months from now, past July, August, September. I mean, when?
Before COVID, all the senior centers were at capacity, and that's what people kind of have to understand. It was built for some centers, 25 was the max. For some centers, 144, some were 190. So there was already enough seats just based on that 6-foot table, four people around a 6-foot table. It was already at capacity. And with all the rules still in place, despite them being vaccinated, there is these distancing rules that need to happen. There is no way that we could reopen without turning people away. And I think that's the biggest concern of all the mayors is how do you weigh somebody and tell them, yes, you can come, no, you can't come. So without actually revising some of it, maybe we can say, okay, for those seniors that have no daytime caregivers and these family members need relief. So, it kind of worked itself out during COVID when people were teleworking and stuff. They stayed home and they watched their elders. But now as they return to work, you have some that are by themselves. So, it's hard to fathom how do we move forward with safely. So many of the mayors requested air filters. And that's just another layer of safety for the senior center. And then we did an air conditioning survey, I want to say a few months ago, and just to find out the age of the air conditioning and how it's working and stuff, and if it's adequate enough to circulate the air and clean it. And many of them are not. If not, I think only 1 out of all 12 centers actually has a newer system in place. Many of their systems are anywhere from 5 to 10 to 12 years old. So that was one of their questions. Can we get this in place? Because you don't want to be that center that ends up having that infection rate go up because, you know, things weren't working properly and sanitizing. So the thing with senior centers too is they like to go around and socialize and share food and everything. And they all have they have services where they all touch the coffee maker, you know, certain things. So we needed, you know, one of the things is we were asking is, do we have to increase personnel to sanitize specific areas on a regular basis while they're there present with us? Otherwise, they just come in and sit down in their chair and they can't move at all and everything is brought to them. And what kind of life is that? And so we kind of have to figure out there, and, you know, they're still getting their meals. We're still doing wellness checks for them. Many of us are in contact assisting where we can with them, but you know, as they read the news and they see the news, they get scared too. They see these little spikes here and there, and they're like, "Am I gonna, you know, do I need to come in to show this?" And so we're just using this time to update and renovate many of our senior centers, and we're hoping the federal money kicks in where we can upgrade those air cons, put in those air filters, and some of us are looking to expand some of the areas. So we can have, you know, move some of these shelves and stuff away, put them in a storage room, so we have more room to fit people in the center itself.
How much money are you guys looking to get from ARPA funds? Have you guys had any communication from the governor?
We have. There's several different. The mayors have applied for several different sources. So I believe that in our budget hearing, we're looking for $7 million to cover some of the shortfalls from our this past fiscal year or this fiscal year's budget. Many of our fuel expenses are gone, and we've eaten all that money up. There's some other things that are kind of within that. Then mayors also applied for education stabilization funding. I know public health also has a specific type of funding for senior centers. I know that Homeland Security and FEMA also has a separate side of funding. And then, so everyone kind of has these pots of money. And so we're just saying whoever can get to us first, we can kind of apply it to where it needs to be. And I think slowly reopening, you know, that's the hard part. You know, if you have these funding sources too, now it's the availability of contractors. There are really none. And so there's some things that need to be done or scheduling issues. So it's a waiting game for many of us.
So how much? Have you heard from the governor at all?
Not for specifically for senior centers. So what we did for the air filters, we put in the request to Homeland, and they said, okay, we'll send it up the chain to FEMA. They get backwards, they told us, yes, we can get it for you. We'll work on the procurement, and that's where we've been. So if FEMA's gonna apply for it and buy it, that's great. We're just waiting then for BBMR or FEMA to come back and say, okay, here it is. And so, you know, we kind of said, this is the size of our centers, you know, and these filters have a specific square footage it can handle, and, you know, maintenance issues and stuff. So we don't know the pricing. It's just, we got the okay from Homeland and FEMA. So I want to say it probably would be interesting if you can find out from FEMA and Homeland for us, because we've been waiting for months.
Mayor, did you, so on the list that the senator sent over to the governor, there was a few stuff in there, a few things in there I felt that affected things at the village level. Were there items on there that you guys supported with the mayor's council?
I know that they talked about vehicles. I know they talked about vehicle maintenance. I know they talked about recycling and doing getting more things done. The hard part with the collection efforts of the mayors do is it's never going to end. Cars will always break down, refrigerators will break, TVs. So it's everyone wants to do this massive cleanup using whatever funding sources we can here and there, and we have to find a way to make it have some value where people can take it themselves and get some sort of money in exchange and remove us from the process, because I wouldn't say we're the free labor, but we're the equation of that labor that's not accounted to the cost of actually moving some of these things here. Some of the things people have asked us to move, weigh several hundred pounds. I was asked to move an engine block. I'm like, how do we do this? And how did we get here in the first place? And they're like, Mayor, can you pick up my engine block? I'm like, I kind of need a bunch of other things to do this. And so I just can't send like 5 guys and toss it into a trailer. So where I told our office, I said, we need to put a weight limit on the amount of things, they can give us versus, you know, oh, I have a cement truck that I want to move. I'm like, this is not how this works. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's difficult, but those are some of the things I know. Part of the American Rescue Plan money, some of the things we were looking at is on environmental initiatives. I'm very focused on trying to see what we can do to build capacity in terms of capital improvement projects, and so that's kind of where I've been pushing what we need to do. And again, even with capital improvement projects, every little thing that we do, anytime it involves federal money, it requires all these environmental clearances and, you know, agricultural, the Marianas Crow, and all the other things that kind of go with it. It's a headache.
Wow.
Yep.
Well,
sorry.
Yeah.
Supposed to be a good morning, Monday morning. I give you a bunch of bad news.
I feel like I'm obligated to ask about the stray dog stuff, just because we.
That's one of the things too. I think we asked for money to support GAIN and Department of Agriculture. You know, one of the things that we were talking about is seeing if they can build an additional shelter somewhere in the central or southern area. There's a lot of people who love and care for animals, and I think an expansion somewhere where people can bring the animals, or as well as foster some of the animals closer. Because, you know, I think GAIN is lucky because they have a lot of the people around the north where the base is, but you also have bases in Santa Rita and here in Agana Heights that, you know, could use, you know, there's a lot of volunteers that want to help out instead of driving all the way to Jigo. So it would kind of solve some of the capacity issues that we're always faced with, because every time we're trying to do something, and, you know, there's a bunch of new organizations and they've been so helpful that I've turned in dogs these past few weeks, and I've never told there was a capacity issue. So it's kind of working itself out in a way, but I don't know if it's working out in a way that we're beating the number of births of puppies versus the number of dogs we're taking in.
That's the challenge, right, Mayor? So what do you think? Do we need to expand? I mean, obviously we do, but would you support dedicating a certain amount of like ARP funds or whatever kind of funds to expand the facilities at GAIN?
Yes, not just that GAIN. Like I said, at other locations would be good. I'm in full support of that. There's some other things. If it was things that I would do, for Guam, I would actually do open a tire center where tires can be received and turned over, green waste staging sites, recycling centers, you know, individual lots where people can kind of do things, staging sites, open up a government impound lot so we don't have to see the abandoned vehicles on the side of the road. So there's little projects I think that we could do, actually building storage capacity pods in different villages so we can actually situate and pre-position supplies like Homeland had asked us to. I think in the long run, this kind of handles all the things we want to do versus just this one shot on the arm. And, you know, Guam's beautiful for a year or so, but, you know, if we do these long-term projects, we have that impound lot, we have the green waste processing lot, you know, this is where we can get the private sector involved to come and process that, but at least people have a place to do it versus the side of the road versus everywhere else. So, you know, these are feel-good projects, but they also, you know, when you have to challenge, when you have to go up against the hospital and education and public safety, these fall right at the bottom.
Yeah, but you know, Mayor, you're right. Like with this money, we're really sitting on a good opportunity to do some like long-term incremental changes that would support like long-term sustainability and whatnot.
Yep, I agree. That's the future to me. And, you know, if it was up to me, that's what I would do in my public comment for the use of the funds, is really just set aside, because they've been problems that have plagued us for 20 years. I mean, how many times do you guys have to do a story about these things? So, you know, we don't have an impound lot. So build some. Yeah, plain and simple. We have some money now. Build some. Build it right. Build it correctly. Fence it in. Do whatever else like that. And let's just do it so we don't have to worry about. I mean, I've seen pictures just recently of the front gates of the schools. Now that the schools are closed and some of them aren't even open there's junk cars in front of them. I was like, what is this? I was like, how did this happen? And so, you know, it's now going to be a debate of whose responsibility is it to remove it? And ultimately it will fall on the mayors. And where do we get the funding for it? And many of the mayors have already exceeded their amount of money, which was one of the things we've talked about is they, to break down our villages into service areas versus counting it as, you know, Dededo is one big village, but there's actually 14 service areas in Dededo. You can actually name them, Kaiser, NCS, and all these things. And unfortunately for her, by the procurement law, she's tied just as Dededo. So the fact that she has 45,000 people doesn't make a difference to the procurement side of it. She gets the same amount of cars removed as Umatic or Agатnya or Sinaanya. Yeah. And, 100 cars in Sinaanya, you're going to see the difference immediately. 100 cars in Dededo, you're not even going to know where it came from. You're going to see, is this side Dededo or this side of Jigo? So you have villages like Dededo, Jigo, Mangilao, Barragata, Sumuning, who need to be broken down to these service areas. So procurement can be targeted and laser focused to clear up those specific problems, sites. So, whether it be Atacao, whether it be, lower Barragata, because that's what happens with these villages is they clump us into one, and one side of the village is more wealthier than the other in terms of median income, and it disqualifies them for everything else. And so by counting service areas, I think you're able to say we need a public facility or a baseball field in Harmon versus saying, hey, Tuman Harmon, sorry, but you're rich. But Tuman throws everybody off. And so, those villages, those sections of the village suffer. So hoping that, we've talked with some of the senators to create these service areas. They're recognized by the census. So it's moving forward with that.
You said you're talking to some of these senators. Have you spoken to your oversight chair, Senator Pito Terlahi? I mean, what has he been doing? Has he done anything for the mayor's council? He's a former mayor. My goodness gracious. I can't believe we're talking about this.
Yeah, he's aware of the problems that exist there. We've asked all our mayors, talk to those senators that sit on your municipal planning councils. I've had meetings with 3 senators already. And so, I'm just, calling my Sinohanya senators and saying, this is kind of what we want to do and need to work on. And this is how we see it best solving some of the issues we're having, because everyone always says their hands are tied, but some things just need to be changed in policy, and the law needs to be changed and upgraded and, to service the people versus it being the hindrance.
What about changes with how the budget is provided to the Mayor's Council of Guam? Because I remember it was about a year ago when Jason and I went to Mayor's Council of Guam meeting, and some of the senators, it was former Senator Rudy Matsanani, and even Paco agreed about the inequity on how bigger villages get the same amount of money for their budget as villages like PD, the smaller villages. And Senator Terlahi was there. And it sounded as though, he understood, obviously, because he was the former mayor. And I would have thought by now something would have been done. Was that even brought up during the budget hearing?
Not that I'm aware of. During the budget hearing, actually, I was taking my parents to an appointment, so I didn't get to hear it. I caught little bits of it. And then before that, I was doing the graduation for the seniors. So you got photos of that one that Joan Hagen did, Travis did. So I was doing that during the hearing on that end. But you're right. And I don't know why they can't figure it out that way. From what I know from any experience of any jurisdiction, a portion of the taxes collected in that jurisdiction stays there. So if you have 45,000 residents and a portion of their property taxes and all this, that should give Dededo a healthy budget. You don't take the money from West Hollywood and give it to Beverly Hills or it stays within that jurisdiction. A big portion is given to the kind of the state in that way, but it kind of stays within that county, and that mayor gets to do the priority. And so you should be able to have that biggest impact of where you live. So for the larger villages, that should, for all of the island, it should be the formula. A portion of the property taxes, a portion of the income taxes should stay within that specific jurisdiction. It encourages economic growth. It encourages a whole bunch of other things and incentives to kind of move people to urban, suburban areas, encourages development. So that's kind of how I would solve some of the things, is because then it's not going to be based on road mileage, because road mileage is what you were talking about when you were there, because you have paved roads and unpaved roads, and then you have just private easement roads. And so there's no physical way to kind of redo the count, which wouldn't cost us a lot more money. I think it's going to cost like $600,000 if we wanted to redo this survey or something like that. And so that's not money the mayor's council has. So we said, just base it on the census, base it on the amount of, people there, and then the property taxes collected or known for that area. And then that's how it should kind of be divided. Then you can get the adequate amount of workers and response crew and resources for that area, because then now, And, if you have a larger area like Los Angeles or New York, the city of New York's budget's in the billions because it stays in New York.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't get spread out to Albany and everywhere else. It stays in New York City.
Yeah. It just seems like you guys need somebody fighting for you guys in the legislature.
The same with the Guam Police Department. It's almost like they don't have a oversight chair either. Mayor, I wanted to switch gears before we let you go. The tiny houses at the public cemetery in Nimitz Hill, Parks and Rec has given the edict that these need to be torn down. I don't know if we caught up with you since the inception of this whole issue, but just your thoughts on tiny homes at the cemetery.
It's they didn't go up overnight, so people saw things, and for it to be said now, you got to remove these things. That's kind of the hard part. I'm okay. For me personally, if it's not bothering any other grave that's beside it or behind it, you're not impeding anything. Okay, and were the people made aware? Maybe not, but if the cemetery was maintained properly and cleared, people would have saw contractors coming in or people self-building, anything that goes above 3 feet or whichever else. So, I think it's already too late to kind of ask somebody to tear that down, especially if they're saying that, these were COVID victims and they're just trying to, do whatever they can to kind of keep their memory alive. As long as they're not bothering any other grave in that area and doesn't impede any traffic or hazard, I say, just leave it. It's going to be unique for us. It's going to be another, it's one of those things like, Guam always has these little unique attractions.
The tourist
it could
attraction.
be the attraction.
Right, yeah.
It could be like, hey, look, this is how on Guam that we started a trend to do this, but it's too late to ask somebody. And where they found contractors at this day and age, I'm surprised. I was like, someone go there and hang out in the cemetery and hand out, I have projects that need to get done. Are you licensed? Can you do this?
Come bid on these projects.
These
families,
really nice.
Yeah, and to these families, it's their way of paying tribute. Some people do it in their home or in their yard. They have altars or, their little things at their home, but they wanted to do this as an outward expression of their love and support of their loved one. But like I said, as long as it's not impeding on anyone in front, on the side, have at it. I mean, I'm sorry, and there's no way to go about this, but that's it. Grandfather it in, say, okay, no more. We're going to monitor this daily, whichever. But even the people across the street saw it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they're too late to tear it down, but just don't allow any new ones to go up. Your take.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah. No problem.
Good
Have
talk.
a great,
Good
happy
talk.
Father's Day.
You too.
Happy
Father's Day.
Thank you.
You really need to tell him, okay?
Send me a card.
I saw a meme that says we shouldn't do gender reveal. We should do baby daddy reveal.
On that note, we're out. Thank you, Mayor Hoffman. All right. Hey,
Bye, Mayor.
quick break, and we're coming back with Therese Ariola of